Hello and hello and welcome to Sim.bc, where right now is 1624. It's all them damn cables that is down here. You know, I have to work with all of these laying around the floor because I need to connect all of them things all together. And today, mate, I'm getting quite directly into it yet again. Not only because it was a 20-minute video yesterday. Yeah, I was sitting and talking on end with no interruptions for about 20 minutes. And for all of you, you might be sitting there and saying, that was all right, that was all good, I had it in the background, that was amazing, mate, more of those. And some of you will probably say, like, if you have the time to spare, why didn't you just make a script? Yeah. And I get what you're saying, but talking for 20 minutes straight, no matter what you thought, yeah? Just the mental fatigue of that was exhausting, especially on such a day as yesterday when I had a huge, delay on when I usually go up and when I actually went up yesterday, and the same is happening today, but I'm a bit more, accustomed to it today because I went up early yesterday. You know, my sleeping schedule is all out of whack as it is. But as I was saying, we're going to go straight into it today, because today I was thinking about doing the review. The review of everything that we've been doing so far, but then it struck me, yeah? I was walking on, just to set the stage, to present a little story, painting with the language. I was walking home. It is minus 15 degrees, and the wind is cold. The wind is fresh. I can feel the left side of my face is slowly freezing, and it's just getting, I can't even feel it. And in that moment, I'm thinking, I wish I could just sit and make YouTube videos all day, the entire day, and do nothing else. Not having to exit my location, my home, my apartment. I would like that. I would love that. And that later sprung into the idea that, well, I can't now, can I? Because I don't make any money from this. Not that money is the important thing when making videos. Absolutely not, it shouldn't be. But still, I can't go 120% into it because, well, it isn't yielding any profit. So it would just be stupid to go headstrong into it now, wouldn't it? And I was kind of developing this idea and thinking that, well, the same goes for artists that are making music, that are making paintings, and so on and so forth. All of the artistic, or all of the, all of the artistic different occupations are basically the same, that you can't make money out of them in the beginning, or many people don't make money out of them in the beginning, and therefore it is hard to gain traction and hard to actually invest in one particular work. And you need to have some kind of side occupation at the same time that you're trying to develop your craft and your creative part. Which is kind of a paradox in a way. Perhaps not a paradox, but it's kind of contradicting within itself. Because as I was walking in, my face started thawing, I was standing in the elevator, I was starting to take off my jacket, and I was thinking, finally, I'm inside! I was thinking about this idea that, I have been talking previously about that you need to put in the time. And sure, 20% is the idea, 80% is the execution. I have been talking about that your passion might be traded for a workplace. But the one thing I haven't touched upon is that in the beginning, when you start making your own business, you probably need to have some sort, or many people, especially if you're risk averse like I am, I'm not inclined to, taking huge risks. I would like to be as stable as possible. Perhaps not as possible, but stable enough, when planning in that spontaneous, behavior and spontaneous movements, as I've been mentioning before in different videos all along the while that we were doing this. But the thing that I came up with is that many startups probably need to invest all of their time. Yet again, relating to living and breathing your own organization, they probably need to do that in order to gain some form of traction and actually getting to know what they're actually doing. I mean, if you just imagine, it is taking me this long to produce this kind of quality in video, and I'm not saying that it's good. No. I'm just saying that even though it's not good, it's not as bad as it has been before. And it is taking me 6 months to reach this point. Now, I might have been able to reach this point in a month if I only put in 100% of my time into making videos. Perhaps I would have had an exponential effect because I was sitting down all of the time and actually working long hours with it, and perhaps I would have sparked some inspiration there. Perhaps it would have taken half a month or something like that, something along those lines. But the idea that I'm trying to push here is that it's quite weird that in a startup you really need to put in the time, and in any form of creative project that you have, you need to put in the time in order to yet again gain traction and actually gain the knowledge of what you're doing if you don't have it previously. But simultaneously you can't. And this is what I was thinking about, that I really would like to put in 100% of my time into YouTube. That would be amazing. That would be super fun. I could make music. Maybe I could make some Let's Play videos, even though they're, YouTube is full of them. Maybe I could work more on these business videos. Maybe I can have a script each and every day. Not the script that I'm going towards, 100% of the time, but maybe some more key points that I can work out of. Maybe I can make more research before every video, and maybe I can put out 2 discussion videos a month instead of just 1. Or just 1. But the idea still comes back that, or the consequence of that is that, well, sure, that might be beneficial in the long run. That might make it so that I'm gaining traction, gain more followers faster, subscribers faster. And simultaneously, if you're a painter, if you're painting a lot, maybe you're learning new techniques. If you're really investing in painting, maybe you will learn new techniques and you will have a bigger variety of paintings because you're painting more, because you're putting in the hours to do so. However, you still run into the same problem, that how are you going to live during the time that you put in 100% of your time into a creative project? Which is the same with a startup. No matter what startup you're doing, it could be that you're an artist, it can be that you're making music, it could be that you're making videos, it can be that you're, producing a new form of steel component to a car, or a carbon fiber component. Maybe that's more in the lines with a car, with the weight and everything. Matters less. I'm not an expert in that, and I not deem myself to be either. But the idea is that in order to gain this traction, you really need to put in the time and the effort. Simultaneously, you can't, because you still need to, retain some form of living standards so that you actually can continue focusing on your startup. You need to have some amount of wealth accumulated over time so that you actually can start. And the same goes with experience, of course. But this wealth, yet again, because even no matter how much you like or dislike money, no matter how much you think that money is the end game here, yeah? Or no matter how little you think that money is the end game, does it really matter? Because in the end, you need enough money so that you can actually support what you're doing, no matter if you believe that it's important or not. And this means that when I'm starting this creative project, sure, it is for my own benefit as well, but maybe this is what I want to do full time. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that it is. Don't hold that against me, yeah? But let's just say that I want to do this full time. I still need to have some money, and in order to have some money, in my case, I'm going to university, and that's the source of income for me, because the Swedish government is nice in all sorts of ways and gives us money to actually go study, which is, 2 thumbs fresh. I like that. Don't take that away from. No. And sure, the alternative is that I could go and get to work, a small-time entry-level job, which can sustain me during the time that I'm trying to make my startup work here, trying to kick off my creative project. But the paradox then comes in that the time when you need to put in the most hours is in the beginning, because you don't make any money. So you need to gain this traction, you need to gain the knowledge, you need to gain everything from scratch. And you can't. Which is kind of bizarre now, isn't it? That you can't actually put in this much time. And yeah, I'm trying to find myself in the frame here. You can't put in this much time because you only have this much time to put in. So you need to put it in over the course of several time periods. However, when you start gaining traction, gaining money as a painter, as a musician, as a YouTuber, as a Twitch streamer, and so on and so forth, you might only need to put in this amount of time that you were putting in all of the time. Yeah, that was weird. You might not only need to put in as big of a portion of time as you've been doing over this period That's better. In order to gain the money that you need to sustain yourself. So now you could actually have a job, 5 or 6 years down the line, maybe 10 years down the line. If you're really good, it's maybe just 2 years down the line, maybe just 1 year down the line. But down the line, you only need to put in this small portion of time over this huge period and still gain a sufficient amount of money so that you can sustain yourself and your hobby, or your passion rather. So now you have enough money from your creative project and enough traction so that you can actually have a job on the side. But now you don't need that because you get money from, your passion. So now you can actually focus on your passion and still sustain yourself. But you're going to sustain yourself improportionally, right? Because you're probably going to earn money in an exponential way, especially if we're talking something along the lines of YouTube. Once you start making money, sure, it's rough. I've heard. I don't have the experience myself, but I've heard of friends who's actually started making money or earning money from YouTube and other creators that I follow that, well, in the beginning it is tough. But when you come to a point when you don't need to put in as much, you will yield more money for less time watched or from less effort put in, because you will naturally gain this traction of views. Same with a painter. If you release a painting and you're already famous, people are probably going to bid a high price for the painting, no matter how much effort you put into it, because people will just like that it's your painting. Now that's obviously isn't true. If you just made it, well, maybe it is, modern art. If you just made a small dot on a white canvas, it can still sell for millions, depending on who is, the seller, the right interpretation, who is the actor, so on and so forth. But the idea still seems that in the beginning, when you need to put in all of the time, you can't, because you need to sustain this passion in some way, which means that you need to have a job on the side, or some sort of revenue coming in, supporting this passion project, this creative project. And once you don't need it anymore, it's very quickly going to turn around so that you only need to put in a small portion of time in order to gain this profit to sustain yourself. And now, you see what I'm saying? So once you don't need the huge time or the huge period of time in order to sustain yourself, when you don't need that, sorry, I lost my train of thought. So when you don't need that anymore, it's also simultaneously the time when you don't need a job anymore. And this is so weird, in a way. It's kind of like there is some sort of social structure there, which I believe should be in place, that supports them in the beginning and then they can have higher taxes in the end. I'm not saying that's the optimal solution, right? I'm not even saying that's a solution. That's just something I came up with now in 2 seconds, yeah? So don't criticize that. That's just one way you can do it. Perhaps you're giving them some form of grant so that they can kick off, and then in the, based on that, how much of their startup costs that were promoted by grants, that amount of tax need to pay back. Something along those lines. Maybe that's a good idea. Maybe it's a bad idea. It's probably a bad idea. Probably. Because I haven't thought that through. But still, the idea is that then you can actually go in, dig down, and spend 100% of your time on this passion project, actually developing it to start earning money from it, instead of needing to put in small quantities of time over a huge period of time when you simultaneously need to work with someone else or with something else. Now, I would just bring up the argument that, well, if it's a passion project, you're probably dedicating your entire time you're awake, except for when you're at work, and probably when you're at work too, to this project. Sure, that is true. I can't argue with that, especially me, who's a student, right? I do nothing else but having free time. But it's just an interesting idea, especially if you have a real startup, let's say. If you have a startup that is based on production and actually getting out and getting customers, it's quite interesting to remember that you can't just quit your work and make a startup. You can, but that's probably based on that you have accumulated some sort of wealth, or that you have some form of revenue coming in so that you can actually focus on your startup. Because just basically jumping ship and trying to make a startup based on no financial support whatsoever from any other, source, I can't say that I support that decision. Now, creativity and spontaneous behavior and taking the initiative, sure, it's good, but you should have some basis for why you're doing it. That's all I'm saying, yeah. But it's kind of an interesting idea that when you're putting in the time, you're not yielding anything. And once you don't need to put in the time anymore, well, you're yielding way too much. In a way. This isn't true for every case, so this is not a universal case. This is not a black and a white side, right? This is part of the grey area in between. Just keep that in mind as you discuss it. As grey as the shirt, yeah? As grey as the humor. Yeah, no, I'm probably gonna stop now. Anyway, mate, just an interesting idea that I thought I was going to take up. And that will lead us into the review tomorrow. Probably, if I don't choose to talk about cultural caging before or after the review. Could be either way. Anyway, mates, have a nice one. I'll see you tomorrow.